format where they rigorously test the hell out of the product in every single way to see, who's going to like it. Like Pepsi did this. Everybody remember the Pepsi taste test? When they competed against Coke, and they would blindfold the cans, and they basically blindfold you, and they'd say, drink one, which one did you like? And people who would drink Pepsi say, oh, I like this one. They'd give them like a piece of gum, or they'd give them some chips or some prize like that. I remember going through it like 4 or 5 times and line up, I'd come back and I'd be like, that's the Pepsi can. I'd see someone else choose it, and I'd be like, that's this one. And then I'd get a pack of gum, and I'd be like, woo! So, they tested that model, and they made sure that they were providing someone excitement. There was a prize that was involved in it. You were blindfolded, so there's some excitement. And then when that person went home that day, he would talk about Pepsi all day long. All day long, you would be a walking, talking billboard of advertisement for that company. So number 5 is make sure you're obsessed with it. If you're not obsessed with it, your heart is not in it, you're not going to bleed, sweat, cry, scream, do everything you can to make sure it's successful, don't do it. I'll be honest, don't do it. Because the chances of you succeeding are very slim. The chances of you actually succeeding, if you're obsessed with something but don't have the money and don't have all the other components, you will still succeed because you won't give up on it. And no one will give up on you. There'll be people who will start supporting you, and there'll be people who will help you. A venture capitalist might like your enthusiasm when you pitch them your business. What we do now is we do these, everybody heard of Dragon's Den and Shark Tank and these companies where these cutthroat investors invest very little money and take as majority equity stake as they can. We do this little thing in Canada and the US where we have these we rent out a hotel room. I invite some of my venture capitalist friends. We sit in the front row. There's about 5, 6 of us. And we invite entrepreneurs to pitch us their business. And we give them 6 minutes. They have only 6 minutes to pitch us their entire business and tell us how it's going to be successful and what ensures that it's going to have mass market scalability and it's going to be adopted fast and people are going to use that product or service or business. And these entrepreneurs, about 40 entrepreneurs come every time and they pitch us in 6 minutes. And at the end of the event, we make deals with them in the back of the room and we say, okay, yours was great. Investors strategically invest. So if I know that I'm just giving you money but I can't give you anything else, chances are they'll pass up on it. They'll put you in touch with another investor who maybe, say you have a mobile company, your venture is a mobile venture. And they've invested into 5, 6 mobile companies. They know the mobile application process, they know the business well, so they know what they can bring to the table to help make sure that you succeed. So when you're looking for investors, go to people who have invested into some company similar to that before. Chances of you actually getting investment from a company who's invested into your industry already is much higher. Chances of you going to Mr. Sandman to sell whatever else, chances you're not going to get it. Just because that guy doesn't have experience in it. It's not attractive to him. It's not something he's already risked money on and has a potential attractiveness to it or incentiveness to it. So look for there's tons of venture capitalists all over the world. Number 1, don't look just locally. Look internationally because there's people all over the world who will invest into some of the things that you're doing. Number 2, when you look for them, make sure you're as strategically aligned as possible. When I say strategically aligned, I mean if you have a mobile app, look for mobile application companies who invest, look for funds and venture capitalists and angel investors who invest in these things. If you have, you're selling oranges, man, look for a fruit company who's invested into oranges. Whatever it is, look for a company or an investor who is already in the business. If you're selling an application for salons, go to salons. Go to people who have invested time and money into these things, and they know how to run them. They know the resources. They know what it takes for these things to be successful. Google and Microsoft and these companies, they buy up companies every day for hundreds of millions of dollars and millions of dollars, and they look for companies that add to their piece of the puzzle. Whatever it is that they do really, really well, they find other companies that can increase what they're doing, and they'll buy them for strategic reasons. So if there's no way that, they bought Google Ads, which is their main money-making platform, off of another company. They didn't create it themselves. They bought it off another company. Then they, changed the technology a bit to make it their biggest moneymaker. So every venture capitalist and investor is going to look for companies that can help them do what they're already doing better, or add one more piece to their big picture puzzle, right? So always look for a company that has invested into that industry before. And now when you're doing it that way as well, it makes sense to, okay, everybody, who is in the startup stage, like the idea stage? You? Do you have a business plan?
Yep.
You do? Okay, so that is the #1 thing an investor is going to ask you for. If you go to him and say, look, I have this crazy idea, and I'm going to be a millionaire, he's going to say, do you have a business plan? And you're going to say, oh, I'm working on it, it's in my head, I'm putting it together right now. The guy's going to say, thank you, see you later, talk to you in 5 years, if ever. So without a business plan, no one's even going to consider it. The seriousness of, sorry.
A quick question for you. How long of a business plan is expected? I know it depends on the business.
I'm just going to take off.
Second question, real quick. Some people are afraid, especially new entrepreneurs, are afraid to pitch their idea to someone, an investor.
In fear of what?
Fear they might take it away, especially if they're already in the industry, a mobile investor in the mobile industry. What do you say?
My advice to that is, if you're afraid that someone's going to steal your idea will never ever get to market, because there's this obsession with entrepreneurs that my idea is the greatest idea in the world, and if someone steals it, then I'm screwed, right? But if you're an entrepreneur and you understand an idea really, really well, even if someone steals it, takes it, and brings it to market first, you can do it better. Like I was explaining, Apple wasn't the first MP3 player. Facebook wasn't the first social networking website. They weren't the first ones out there, but they did it better. They understood how they were going to do it, and they did it better. So I mean, it's a very valid question. I mean, there was a point in time in my life too where I was like, oh, I'm going to go pitch this idea to an investor. He's going to steal my idea, and I'm screwed because he has all the money and he has all the resources to make it successful. But I would always come back to this one common foundation of thought that said, he can have all the money in the world, he can have all the resources in the world, but he's not going to die for this idea. To him, it's just another business where he's throwing money or resources. To me, this is my life. This is something that I'm going to, whether I die trying to make it successful, that's what I'm willing to do. That's the stage of my commitment level. So I mean, if you're afraid of your idea being stolen, that's very valid. Chances are people might steal it. If it's successful, it's guaranteed to be stolen. If you're going to succeed with that idea, at some point everybody's going to copy that model. Groupon came out with a group buying site, now there's like 500 clones in the world, right? Can they say that, oh, everybody ripped off my idea, I hate these guys? No, they go foreign and they start investing into foreign companies to get market share in other ways. There's always ways to be one step ahead of the curve or to be one step better. But in order to do that, you have to be obsessed with that idea. You have to think and own it and be it and live it and breathe it, make love to it. So if you're not at that stage, chances are, 1, it won't be successful, 2, someone will steal it. And someone might do it in a shitty way. I've seen that happen as well. I've seen ideas where entrepreneurs would come to me and they would pitch me this idea, and then they would call me 3 months later and say, yo, you didn't invest, look, someone stole my idea and they're launching it and blah, blah, blah. And they would do a really shitty job of launching it. And then the guy would call me back like 4 months later and be like, oh, man, these guys did a really shitty job. I'm so excited, now I know I can beat them. They get more confidence. They feel a little bit better about themselves. So if you're going to do things from a position of fear, from a standpoint of fear, you're going to be limited in exactly what you can do, and you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, and you're not going to be able to walk very far. If you're going to do things from a standpoint of confidence, from a standpoint of I'm going to make it successful whether I live or die, I'm going to make it successful whether I have to knock on 5,000 doors in this world to get investment. When you're at a stage where you're so sure of your idea, you believe in it. Belief in an idea is very, very important. If you don't have belief in something, how could you ensure that you're going to have a successful relationship with it? If you don't believe that you love your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, right? How are you going to know that you're going to have a successful relationship? You won't. You're leaving it up to chance, which is increasing your risk of failure. If I believe that I love that person in my life, chances are I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure the relationship is something that continues to go forward and is successful. Yeah, so.
I'm going to ask, if my idea is so much big and so much great, like the way you are describing it right now, what's the need for investment or investing in it?
You don't. You're very right. That's a very, very valid question. Not every entrepreneur needs investment. You don't. I'll be very, very honest. There's guys who started things with very, very little money, and they've turned it into this big successful thing and without any investment. When I started my used car software, I didn't have investment. When I started my lemonade stand, I didn't have investment. I would convince, I knew what resources I needed. So that's another key thing. If you have this great idea and you know that money is not the greatest thing that you need, but you do need resources to make sure that this idea gets, you need a marketing guy, a sales guy, you need a development guy, you need a website, you need all of these things. Always make sure you fully understand. When you write a business plan, you should understand these things, that you need these pieces of the puzzle to make it successful. If you don't have these pieces of the puzzle, you're going to experience setbacks, time delays, failure. You know, you're going to experience all these things that are going to stop you from getting to market as fast as you think you're going to get to market. So, to answer your question, you're absolutely right. You don't need money. At some point, you will need money, right? But I mean, you can self-fund it. I've self-funded many ventures. You can self-fund things, and at some point, people will even give you money. At some point, to scale your business fast and to get more users and to market and to advertise, you need money. So there's no business that survives the long term without having a certain amount of investment to ensure that they stay in business for a few years. But that being said, there's many businesses that started with nothing, very little investment, did really great, and then attracted all of this resources in terms of financial capital that they needed to go to the next stage.
The money allows you to leverage your competitive edge.
Of course, yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's where you have to start scaling up.
But when you start an idea, I mean, your intentions are to scale it to, let's say, you know, 1 million members, right? But when you start an idea, you don't need $1 million to get 10 members, right? You don't need $1 million to maybe even get 1,000 members. You just need a viral marketing, you know, strategy, or you need to tap into networks or groups, or you need a strategy, a methodology to attract a certain amount of people. So at some point, when you hit 100,000 members, and now you know the process, and you know that, you know, I can hit another 900,000 in 6 months if I had this much money. Then at that point, you're at the tipping point. Anybody read Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point? Of course, right? I mean, he teaches how epidemics occur and how things reach a critical point of mass where the water glass fills up and then it starts tipping over. At that stage, you need money. You definitely need money because you want that to overflow completely and to pick up everything. But prior to that stage, yeah.
Who do you turn to when you don't need money? When you're at that stage where you need guidance, direction, all the things before the money comes?
That was my number 6 point of investing. No problem, no problem. I'll actually answer it now. So when you're starting a venture, I started many ventures where I thought I knew everything. And I'll be honest, I didn't know very much. When it got to push came to shove, and it came to actually trying to make the idea successful, I didn't know very much. I knew very, very little. There's a fancy quote that says, I know that I know nothing. I don't know if it's Plato or whoever else that said it, right? But it's very, very true. We have very, very little knowledge, even though we think we're so knowledgeable on something. So, answer that question. 1 is identify exactly what resources you need. And sometimes you can get these resources without money, right? If I need a web developer, I don't have to go and look for the fanciest web design company in the world and say, look, you know, I don't have money, but I need you guys to build this for me. I can find some kid in a basement or in a school or, you know, in a garage, or some kid who's doing website development online. I could look at his small little WordPress portfolio of sites that he's built or something that he's done, and I could say, listen, hey, how would you like 1% of my company? How would you like to work with me in exchange for experience that you can put on your resume and say you worked with a startup? You give them, there's a stage where students are looking for things to help them get into careers. Those things are always experience. And they don't have that. They can't have enough of experience. I can't have enough experience as an investor, even though I've done so many things. So experience is very, very important. If you're giving them the opportunity to gain some experience in compensation, they'll give you their skills. Something that they spent hours, thousands of hours studying and mastering and becoming, great at it. So you can always enlist resources from schools, from universities, from students, from people all over this world. Back in Canada, I used to have a chain of pizza stores. We had like 10 pizza stores. And I used to have 2 drivers that were Russian drivers, Igor and Dmitry. And these guys were rocket scientists, I'll be honest. They were brilliant. I mean, these guys can sit there and design for me like the Burj Khalifa, literally, and they were doing pizza delivery. And I would ask them, what the hell's going on? How is it that you're so well educated and you're doing pizza delivery? And he would say, oh, well, this is the only opportunity available to me right now, and I have responsibilities, and I have a family, and I completely understand that. But if they went and they offered their services to someone for free, right, and they said, look, I'm a rocket scientist, let me help you build this rocket, and they add suggestions, they email the guy every week, and they say, look, this is something you can do better. Chances are someone will say, look, you actually know your shit. Let me hire you, let me give you a chance, let me give you an opportunity. But they didn't do that. They said, look, I have to pay my bills now, and this is what I have to do. They could have worked for 3 months, saved up every penny, and then spent the next 3 months trying to attract, an opportunity. And they would have got it. I guarantee you they would have got it. But they believed that, I need to make $1,000 a month to pay my bills, and this is more important than my career, even though I spent 10 years of education trying to be a rocket scientist, right? So they're working on things where it has no relation to what they spent their life doing. But they're students who are very, very passionate. Young people, even old people who are very, very passionate, have a tremendous amount of skill that they're not using. right? So I know that I'm an idea guy. At some point, I'll launch the business, I'll launch the idea, but I know I'm not a guy who's going to sit in my business and work 12 hours a day trying to run it. I suck at running businesses. So I find resources of people who love running businesses, and, and that complements my weaknesses. And it allows them to come in and say, okay, great, this is how you run it, Comm. And I learned valuable lessons of running a business through people who love doing the things that they do. So one is they invested a lot of experience and time into learning that skill, which you can tap into. Two,